ICT, information communication technology, and how it will change our work patterns. Near the end, I will talk about flexible and individual workspaces, and in the end you will see my opinion, the results of our research, why maybe office will stay important in a more flexibilized world. And yeah, that's the idea behind, and yeah, that's us. We are a research organization. We are kind of semi-governmental, so I'm working for the government, you could say, and altogether we are 22,000 people doing research in Germany and all over the world, but we are not doing office research. We are just 20 to 25 doing research on these topics. But you can see our headquarters in Munich on the right, and our new building in Stuttgart. It's shaped in line with our ideas, and it was designed by Ben van Berkel from UN Studio, you know, maybe in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, but we are small institutes, like we are 66 institutes. Every institute is dealing with different topics, like nano surfaces or production and machinery things, and we are the most, I would say, the softest institute within the Fraunhofer society, because we are dealing with people. We have sociologues, psychologists, and things like this. All the others, they are engineers, I would say. Me personally, I've been studying architecture a couple of years before, and then I went to research because I wanted to understand how the built environment influences people in things like well-being or productivity and motivation. So that's been my background, and our small institute in Stuttgart with about 500 researchers, we are dealing with 6 different main topics like corporate development and work design. That's where I come from. We have colleagues in the area of service and human resource management, engineering systems, ICT technology, very important for us as these things are changing our world. I have colleagues doing research in technology and innovation management. That's important for me because I get from them some insights. How will technologies develop, and how could we use them maybe in the office environment? And at the end, mobility and urban systems engineering. So sorry, I catch the cold on the weekend, but I didn't want to skip the Moscow trip, so that's why I'm here. Yes, that's our really rough research model. That's what we are interested in the individual and in the team, and we think there are 4 main influencing factors on how they perform, how productive they are, and on the other side, how they feel, how motivated, and how these things will influence the job satisfaction. So on the left upper side, you see like leadership, setup, and process organization. That's the management side. So if you have a horrible boss, all the other things are not anymore that important, maybe. But we try to balance all these influencing factors. We have on the upper right side the information communication technology. We have services, and we have at the end building, room, and workspace. And that's what I believe in, that it's really, really important. And I will show you maybe why. We are doing research in these area for about 10 years now, and we did different things like writing books, like doing studies, like setting up a scenario on how we will work the next decade. It's on the upper right side. You have it on YouTube, so you don't have to read the research report. The research report is, it's horrible. It's a scientific paper, so look at the video. You have all the content in that. Where you'll find it in the internet. In the end of the slides, I will have a link to this video. So we did different things on real estate and how office should be, and we have quite a history doing research together with interested companies in how office will develop. And you can see like countries like Volkswagen, they are interested in, because they have lots of office workers, and they think if we find out how they could be more motivated, more productive, that's interesting for them. But we have all kinds of office suppliers, I would say, like lighting manufacturers, but that's why I'm here also, like our partner Interstuhl. So these are our research partners, and yeah, what is interesting about this project is completely privately financed, and that's why we are quite fast in comparison with governmental research. You have to do lobbying, you have to write their program, and then you have to get maybe the money 5 years after your ideas. And so we are quite fast with this private funded project. I think so, I hope so. So that's enough for where I come from and what we are doing now. Some effects of working and office environments on how we work. We made a study with about nearly 5,000 participants, and you can see a correlation in between a very low quality of design and a very high quality of design of your office environment, and you see the impact on performance. And I think that's very interesting. That's not productivity, but that's the impression of these 5,000 people, how they, we ask them, how is your working environment, describe your working environment, and then describe your motivation factors, your productivity factors, things like this. So we have a strong relationship in between office environment and the office performance. We call it office performance index. And the most important design factors in this study has been the support for cooperation and communication, and on the other side, to have an individualized office concept made for your company and your activities and your culture. So I think that's a strong relationship, and a quite old study, but I want to show it to you because it was one of our first studies, and she's not she, and it's still interesting because you can see some typical different office types, like the two-person cellular office, the multi-person office, the team office, the open space office with 20 and more people, and then the so-called Kombi-Büro or combined office, the very, very loved one-person cellular office. And on the right end you can see the mix of different forms, like that's business club or flexible office systems. So, and you can see they have different impacts on performance and on motivation. But don't use this slide to build your office, because it depends. What is not behind this slide is which activities are you doing, but it shows you that there's an impact of the office and the built environment on performance and motivation. This is a study we did. It's more in the direction of the ICT solutions, and this is quite astonishing, but think about how it will maybe change offices. This is real productivity. We made a study comparing working at one display in comparison to 3 displays. Looks horrible, 3 displays in the office environment, but you are faster. You are definitely 30% more productive in this setup, and that's definitely much. Okay, we set up the study kind like this, that we get good results. So we had in the middle, we had our document. On the left side, we had some comments from my boss. And on the right side, we had some comments from my colleague. And I had to figure out which are the perfect things to fit in, and then we could count mistakes and how many documents we could accomplish. So, but that's astonishing, and think about maybe 30% more productivity, and think about how this will influence the built environment. I think that's quite interesting. Or we did recently, last December, I think, a study on this topic. We discuss in every project, like how transparent is our office interior or our office building. And you can see the dark green columns, they mean I get a lot of important information from others. So that's the flow of information, I would say. And you can see if you have a rather closed and opaque office on the left, the column increases to a rather closed but a lot of glass office, like as you have lots of glass, it's not always transparent. Then you have a rather open and transparent office, like maybe an open space. That's the highest level. And then on the right side, you have these typical cubicles, like in this American criminal movies or journalist, newspaper office situations. And you can see no one likes it, but the information is not that, the flow of information is not that bad in these things. And I think that's also interesting. We try at our institute, we try to keep in mind the well-being of the people, but at the end you have also a manager and he has to decide how many concentration will I give to my people and how many flow of information and how much communication. And you have to balance it out for your company. So because I'm a bit suspect when I talk about the role of office, because I'm doing research on it. So I like this study because it's from Stepstone. I don't know if it exists in Russia. It's kind of career website where you can look for new job opportunities. And they made a study 2 years before asking 6,000 applicants on what makes an employer interesting for you. And you have all these, and it's the first time that on the first position, on the top position, there's a good working environment and good facilities. It's the classical instrument of hiring people, like financial inducements, bonuses, or business success, economic stability, or all these HR things like professional application process. They are important, but they are not that interesting because they are used to. So you have a real possibility to distinguish your company from other companies. So short conclusion, I think, or I try to prove that the working environment is an essential factor of success for motivation, for performance, and especially for employee retention. So all I tell you is studies in Switzerland, in Germany, in Belgium, in the Netherlands. I have no idea how the world here is in Russia, so maybe it's the same, maybe it's different, maybe it depends on the city and on the region. So, but that's the situation where we are doing research. And now a short trip to information communication technology, and I really like this so-called Gartner hype cycle. It's published every summer from Gartner. It's an ICT consulting company from the United Kingdom. And you can see, no, I have too many things in my hands. You can see things like, it's the hype cycle. Here it's no one knows about it, technologies like electrovibration. Don't ask me what's that. Prescriptive analytics, even don't ask me what's that. Neurobusiness, biochips, and then no one talks about it, maybe in the research and in scientific circles, and then it comes to the media. And then there's an enormous hype, and then the technology, it starts again that no one talks about it, and then you lose it on the way, or one day it arrives in the real life and you don't talk about it anymore. So I will give you some examples. Last year, it's from last summer, consumer 3D printing. The media was full of ideas like you are printing out your own pizza, you are printing out your own weapon, and then we all got to know the pizza is not that tasty like at the Italian restaurant. The weapon we have already, and so what should we do with this? And now we don't talk anymore that much about this topic. The next you will see is big data. It's already in the media. And you remember maybe 2 years before it was the topic cloud computing. So it's not too bad, this hype cycle, to get the orientation. And I would like to move you to this biometric authentication methods, like scanning your eyes or your fingerprints and things like this. It's boring. It was a hype 8 years before, and now it arrived in our real life. We had doors at the institute you could open with the iris scan. They didn't open, or they opened. It depended, and was but no idea. You still had to have a key. So it was a bit of hype. And now the last 4 years, no one talked about it. And now it arrived in our real life. And how could this thing change office work? Now we have, in every notebook, in every pad, we have webcams, and we have a software which is looking at you. If it's still Stefan Rief, is it still Stefan Rief? And I move away, the screen gets dark. So what does this mean, this little feature? This means I could leave the office. People and departments could leave the office with sensible data, or with maybe data on, that's maybe in German, it's like personal data, like on your illness or sickness. If you're working for insurances, you are still stick to the office. So new groups will have the possibility to leave the office, and this will definitely change the use of office space. Another interesting thing, how ICT changes our work patterns. That's me, that's traditional, and these are my younger colleagues. So if I have an idea, I write it to two people I think they could use it. And then they say, good idea, bad idea, boring idea. And he answers, great job, boss, great job. So I don't know what happens in this area. And my younger colleagues at the institute, they use it on the other way. They have a many-to-many communication. They put their ideas or their studies in the middle, and everyone could follow it. For me, as I'm not anymore from Generation Y, I ask, okay, and what's it useful, and what should I do with it? And I didn't adopt it for a year. And they always said to me that I'm not cool. Even that wasn't important for me to adopt it. And then I said, okay, what could I do with it? And then it was perfect. I put some ideas on the platform, and there have been new colleagues. I never have been thinking that they could be interested in this topic, and they had ideas to this topic. And the best for me, they wanted to grab this idea and push it forward, so I hadn't to do it. So I'm a bit lazy also. So it's a good thing to use it, and we changed completely how we communicate. And we are doing strange things, like we enter the age of the share economy. Like we started to share ideas 10 years before and 5 years before. Your knowledge was your secret, it was your career opportunity, and now we start to share things like this. We show our competences in the internet or on the internet. We are starting to share our private infrastructures, like maybe your Wi-Fi router at home, and what I think is quite, for a German, it's not possible normally. And you would say 2 years before it was not, you couldn't even think about it. We are sharing cars in our cities. I dropped my sports car. Okay, it was a bit expensive, and now I'm a car sharer. It's not that bad, it's a bit cool, and we are doing things like strange things like couch surfing. We give really other people we don't know the possibility we host them in our living room. So we are doing things like co-working. So the youngest are changing, and they are also integrating older ones like me to behave different. And I think that's very interesting, this development, if you have in mind how we work in offices. So why shouldn't we, if we Germans start to share cars, and we are producing them, if we are sharing our canopies with people we don't know, so why shouldn't we share maybe tables in offices? I think the impulses for changing work styles, they come from the private and informal media usage from the youngest, and the new generation, they live it already. So this will be interesting for office also. And how are we a bit? I have some slides on how we are today and how we work today, and what at the end I will show you what I think, how this will influence the way of working. We work a lot. We have this symbolic contract of 40 hours, but you can see nearly 50% of the people in Germany, this is a German study, they work more than these 40 hours. 20% work even much more than these 40 hours. And what's the idea behind it? Okay, we want to have career perspectives. It's a salary, it's job satisfaction, sorry. And I was so proud on this slide, because we are Germans, are working that much. And in preparing this little lecture, I Googled on the internet, and then I saw that you are in Russia, you are even working more hours. So maybe you have the same problems. That's the first how should I say? Maybe there are some things which are similar. And here we have statistics on job satisfactions in Europe, job satisfaction in European countries. Look, this is Germany. We are not used to be under the average. And this is Russia. So you are not that happy following this study with your working situation. I don't know if it's just the research stuff or if it's in the real world also like this, but we Germans, we are not happy to be under the average, so, but we are not that enthusiastic, so maybe I would count some things more on this because we are so not enthusiastic. But anyway, if we would move to the average, there are still the Scandinavian people, the Swiss people, they have a higher satisfaction in their jobs. So we work a lot, we are not quite satisfied. Yeah, what should we do? There's another problem. We will become less and less people. This is a German prognosis, or prognosis for Germany. We will lose up to 2030 2 to 4 million employees or workforce. That's a lot. Then I have been Googling, and I saw this means 6 to 10% of the German workforce. Then I have been Googling and I saw this statistic from the United Nations, and in Russia you will lose, I don't know, 17%. So this means what is the impact? We will have to work maybe more, longer the day, longer the life. We have to, it's horrible, and we are already not that satisfied. So what could we do? Then look to the younger persons, to the so-called Generation Y. How do they choose an employer? Okay, they are still like I have been, maybe. It's because of the salary, it's because of the colleagues. It's not just because of the working environment. The working environment I showed you, it makes them interesting. They are still underwriting also because of the salary. So yeah, unfortunately, maybe. So the colleagues end to have an important task which gives you sense. And for their productivity, they need technology in the office, people around them, inspiring people, and they need a workplace which is urban, flexible, and in a near proximity to their residence. That's what they say makes them productive. And now there's another study we supported. So how flexible forms of work in different age groups. Because if you think on working flexible, like different locations, different time models, we always think on the first moment that's like these middle-aged people with kids, and who want to see them growing up. But look at this, there's nearly no difference on the different ages. But there's a difference in between how many % would prefer to have the possibility to work flexible and how many get the opportunity or expect the opportunity from their companies. So it's not just a family stuff working flexible, it's cool also for the older ones. So I think that's quite interesting. And why do we want to have more flexibility in our work style? It's avoiding time-consuming commuting. That's what I learned about Moscow today, that it's even more interesting here than in Germany, because we have small cities. We don't have these problems like waiting for 2 hours in the traffic jam. So this could maybe be interesting for you. More time for promotion of health. I think, yeah, I don't know if we do it afterwards. And the third, another of the top important influencing factors is responsibility for others. So nearly 70% have responsibility for others. And then it's 40% on children. It's 7% on elder or older relatives. And it's astonishing, 23% on pets, on animals, on your dog, on your cat, things like this. So these are the reasons why people like to work more flexible, more free. Then we made last year a forecast or a Delphi study where we put up some 50 hypotheses or theses, and we gave them to 100 other experts and asking them, when will this be real life? When will this thesis be true? And these are some out of the results. Till 2025, nearly 80% of the experts said it will be normal that we will have a massive demand for flexible forms of work because of care for elderly people. Another one was, we will see a high flexibility when choosing daily location of work, not just home office and office or corporate office, but also co-working center and other different places. At least 2/3 of our experts think to 2025 we will have this situation as normal. And that's quite interesting. Lived work-life balance as a status symbol, like not anymore your miles and more card. I got some miles today from Stuttgart to this place, but it's not anymore cool in 10 years. In 10 years it will be cool to be successful and be able to integrate work and private life in a good way. So some foresights. And to put it together, the requirements for working life and for our private life are high, and I'm sure we will experience very highly flexible and dynamical changing models of work. So this means not just I work Fridays from home, but this will mean maybe I work 2 weeks in summer from my summer house. I will work with some colleagues on a surf camp, and I will work at my parents' house to give them some, to support them maybe for 6 weeks. And I will come back to the office, that's for sure. So some ideas how it could change. So the office, which part will it play in this flexible future? No one is in the office, we have new groups who will leave the office, everyone wants to work flexible and it makes him happy, so why should we invest in offices or in office design or in thinking about office or even in doing research on offices? And on the other side we have, to make it complete, we have first little idea that office maybe could be interesting still in these flexible times. As Marisa Meyer, and maybe you followed the discussion last year from Yahoo, they had severe problems with their colleagues working from home because they all set up their own startup and haven't been working for the company. So maybe they had a huge freedom and the company doesn't work for the last 10 years. So she demanded all people to come back to the office. I think that's the first indice that maybe office is not that bad. But I don't think this will be the future. You can't bring the people back. If they had once the freedom, it's very, very difficult and they leave the company now and the good ones leave the company, not the bad ones. That's always been the problem. It's changing things. So we made a brand new study, and if you want to have this slide, write it down now, because I won't give it to you because it's not published yet. So if you're interested in this, yeah, copy it in your notebooks. So we made, we have been asking, we set up a flexibility, we have, I don't know, nearly 1,000 persons who took part in this study, and we wanted to know how flexible are you, what's your flexibility index, so how flexible do you work, how free, how high is your freedom in choosing your working times and your and the place where you are working. And you can see we have a this means always no influence and very strong positive influence, and here is a strong influence and here is influence, I would say. So it's good for performance. That's a medium influence. It's very strong and good for well-being. It's good for the motivation, and that's not astonishing, very good for the work-life integration or the work-life balance. So flexible work, working flexibly, working freely, has a strongly positive influence on our success factors. So so should we forget about office design? I don't think so. Look at this. It was the same study. And here the connection in between satisfaction with office environment and our success indices. And you can see they are higher. If you are satisfied with the office environment, people who are highly satisfied with the office environment, they have a higher performance level, they have a higher well-being index and a higher motivation index, and it's even more strong, and the connection is more close than working flexibly. So I think that could be interesting for office suppliers. Maybe, and designers and all this. And I'm quite happy that it's not all about flexibility, but we have to do and we have to set up offices which are not boring, because if I have the possibility to work elsewhere, I won't come back. So the flexible use of workplaces will be the norm in the future, and at the same time the importance of the working environment in such a flexibilized world will even increase and not decrease. But only if you keep the productivity and the well-being promise of the offices you do when you design new ones. And there are not so many, it's not always like this. So that's a bit the message. And if you are designing or doing concepts for modern office or working environments, I will just give you a short look on different companies. So it's just a variety of companies, and I want to, I did it like this, that this means you have the personal autonomy, so like the lived freedom in choosing where you work and when you work, where and when you work. And on the other side, you have the variation of a concept. We have concepts, they are the same on the whole world in international occasions. There's like McDonald's, you can't distinguish if it's in Russia, in Peking, Beijing, or in Stuttgart. So, and on the first side, these working environments, these modern working environments, they are all a bit the same. And if you see the briefing for the designers, they are all the same. It's like, we want to have more space efficiency, we want to have attract younger people, we want to be, I don't know, flexible, it should be adaptable, and all these things. It's all the same, but they are different. And this is, but they don't write it. So this is, for example, Adidas. I think you know it, or the company at least. They have their main quarters in Herzogenaurach. I mean, that's not Beijing, it's not New York, and it's 1.5 hours away from the next bit interesting city, it's Munich. So how should you get all these cool and young and urban oriented designer to this campus. They tried to set up, and that's their aim, getting high potential to this location. And what they do is they harmonize interests of the company with the private and the family needs of their employees. They are very, very young there. They have an average age of 37 at the headquarters and 30 in the whole company. And they have 25% foreigners in Herzogenaurach. You have to look on the map where it is. It's yeah, horrible. It's, I think, 5,000 inhabitants somewhere in the rural field area. But what they set up, a huge range of different working time models. You can bring your children to the campus. They have different time models like My Time, lifetime accounts. They have a parent pool. They have part-time also for executives. And they really care on their environment, as you can see here. And they're setting up a new one in this moment. And they try to, they're a bit like this. They try to keep you on the campus, having good experiences on the campus in the office, but you have lots of flexibility, but they design it and they give you an atmosphere that you don't use it, that you feel good on this campus. There's another interesting company, Google is doing the same. This is an example from Switzerland, maybe you know it already. It's the Credit Suisse in Zurich. That's a bank, a serious, a successful Swiss bank. What they wanted to do, they wanted to increase space efficiency and reduction of property costs in the high-priced Zurich area. So, but what they also wanted to achieve is to increase the attractiveness as an employer within these high potentials. And how they did it, they started to share workspaces, workplaces. Adidas isn't doing it in the moment. They shared it, and they they set up a really sophisticated, functional, but also atmospherical, very, very sophisticated working environment over there. If you have the possibility, go there. It's very interesting. They have been the same. They give you some freedom. It's like, I don't know if you have the same effect. It's like if you have the possibility to get or to go to the theater, for example, you don't miss it. If you have the possibility to go to the opera, you don't miss it if it's just around the corner. And they do a bit the same. They give you the freedom, but they give you such an environment that they keep them on the campus. Another, oh, that's a bit boring, that's Deutsche Bahn. I would say it's also colorful, but it's a more kind of, it's just more colorful, but it's a typical model of how, not moving that forward, but they're trying to compete. This is the new ICT building in the central business district of Frankfurt, what's not too bad for IT building. And they try to keep and be attractive for ICT personnel. Maybe it will work. And here another example of Deutsche Bank. They are working, they have assigned workplaces, and the Deutsche Bank, they have a worldwide concept, I think also in Moscow, and they already started in 2002 or 2003 to work very, very flexible. They have sharing offices, but they are, how should I say, they are a bit Deutsche Bank. They are a bit German. They are a bit very functional. The ratios, how many places could you use per person, they are well sophisticated and elaborated, and how you could do it, but it's not so atmospheric. But it works. It's a different culture. Here you have Google, and that's for me a very, very interesting example, as everyone knows it, but not from the, how should I say, not from the point of view of how it is designed, maybe, but it's more the culture. You can't read it anywhere, but if you talk to people, it's a bit like this. At Google, they are producing things to work flexible, to work where you want, to work mobile, to be connected everywhere you are. But they have a working environment which is, they have they don't have sharing concept. Everyone has its own place, and they have this campus retention. They try to make the office so attractive that you come back to the office and that you work there, and that like Adidas, for example, as I told. Another attractive company in Germany, just around the corner, Hugo Boss. It's also kind of traditional thing. I mean, if you want to work for the fashion company, it's a fashion, it's a brand, that's what is important for you. So they have a working model. It's very, very inflexible. They have a good design, but it's like it's a bit like their suits. I mean, I like them, but it's like their suits. They're a bit uniform, but you come to this company because you want to work in this kind of fashion industry. So all the concepts are quite colorful, but they are very, very different in their idea. And here, very old or early flexible work concept, it's IBM. They did it in the beginning to increase the space efficiency. They had massive problems in the 90s, and to become faster. So that was the idea behind it. It was not about well-being, things like this. And they have sharing ratios up to 1 desk for 20 people. Look at this, but it's a completely different company. It's a consulting company. They have their success. The single person has its success when you have a good contract with the customer. It's cool to be, they have sophisticated networks internally. They're using modern and very, very modern things like presence information, online meetings. They have teams dispersed worldwide. It's a different thing to work, and that's where how is their culture. Then you maybe could do boring offices like this. So you always have to look how it is. And this is an example, so it's, don't be scared, I think it's the last one. I like this because it's not because it's Microsoft, but because it shows a bit what we will experience the next years. Microsoft, they are allowed, the people there, the employees have been allowed for years now to work where they want, when they want, and then they went home and they have been working everywhere, like, for example, the Yahoo example. But then they got to know there's anything doesn't work. We have to make our offices that attractive that they come back, that they meet there, that they exchange each other personally. But that's a good example. They wouldn't have come back to this office. It's not like Yahoo. You have to come back, otherwise you will lose your job. It's more like, okay, we will have an environment which is so sophisticated, so different, so which gives you so much individuality that you have the wish to come back and meet your colleagues. So that's why, and that's a bit what we will see in the offices. In the next years, people will move out the offices, and then we have to build good and inspiring offices that they come back and use these face-to-face things. Because you have to think they are used, if you have the development that they work outside, why should they come back to work, to not be able to concentrate, to not be able to have good meeting rooms and all these things. So that's a bit how we think world will develop. Another example, and I will send you the slides. And just to put it together, as in the beginning, you really have to look on different cultures and how you support them. They are all a bit flexible, but they are so different. We have these technical functional models like IBM, like space efficiency, like how do they do it? They give maximum freedom to their people. We have on the other side, we have the same freedom for the people in choosing where they work and when they work, but they are much more emotional, this concept. They are much more, they have different variations. The office environments, they are very different settings, different places to work, different situations, and also different offices around the world. So that's more a facility management driven thing, and this is more emotionally driven thing. And on the other side, you have the preserving models, and they work if you have a strong brand like maybe Hugo Boss. Then you could do it like we did it the last years. And on the other side, you have these not sharing. Astonishing, Google is not sharing. They're not working that flexible. And Adidas, which try to set up a strong community on their campuses, on their premises. So that's a bit the end, my conclusion. Only on the first sight, new working models or worlds or environments seem similar. There are strong differences in design and especially in the effects and culture there. And we had the last decade, we had more these cost-driven projects, increasing the space efficiency, and now it's became much more on retention of employees, on making them happy and making them not just happy, making them happy but also productive. And in the beginning it was a movement more in the consulting industry, in the ICT companies and financial service companies, and now it moved to work flexibly and moved more to the normal classical technological companies like Bosch or Mercedes or things like this. So or BMW, we are talking at the moment with them on things like this. But as someone said, maybe in the discussion, I think the potential of office design, it's not always used in a strategic and consequently way, and there's much possibility to do it even better and to make people enthusiastic about work and how they integrate work and life. And I think, yeah, there's a good time to link successfully the company needs and the individual needs of the employees to make both more successful. So that's a bit opinion and insight in our research. And that's what will come next, what we will do with Interstuhl the next 1.5 years, these topics. Maybe I will return if you invite me again and talking about these things. So thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay, maybe I won't return.
Важности переговорных комнат и о новой программе. В принципе, что я, давайте послушаем Михаэля.
Yes, hearty welcome also from my side. Thank you for being here today. It was really funny. I wake up today in the morning, -3 degrees and snow, and then I'm landing in Moscow, +20 degrees and sunny, so I should be join you even more than this time. Very nice weather here. I'm happy to give you some short information about a tool we created together with Stefan and his team in the past, and it's called Interstuhl Meeting Analysis. Why do we create this tool? Stefan just told you what are the changes in the working environment we will have in the future, and just to give you this overview. The desk sharing, not the whole companies do desk sharing, like Stefan told. Google does not desk sharing, but most of them do more and more desk sharing, and we recognize a really hard compression of space for workstations via the last 5 to 6 years in general. That's one of the trends we recognized. There are less storage space in the floor plans, and if you have a look on the zones where, or the space where we have these classical workstation or open space solutions and compare it to the other places, we have nearly 50 to 50 comparison between the space. And this in between the red line, this space, even grows, and the classical space for workstations in general is more and more compressed. That's what we recognized actually. And the interesting thing is it's not only more space for communication or interaction or collaboration or communication, it's also very different scenarios. And that was one of the key issues for us. How could we analyze what is the scenario, what is the right solution for clients, how to evaluate the right solution. If you have a look on this floor plan, this is right out of a newspaper in Germany, and this is how Gen Y wishes their offices. And you can see it's colorful. There are different meeting areas. There are less workstations, only some. There are a lot of plants. There are recreation areas. There are a lot of communication zones, very different also. That means, okay, this is a kind of a view in the future, how the next generations will work together and how they wishes themselves their office environment. So that's also a thing Stefan just told us. Working in project teams, working together, not in a fixed organization, but more in really flexible organizations. This is one of the trends we also recognize, which means for you as planning office spaces, what is the right setting for virtual project teams, for instance, who does not work in one office or in one space, and which technologies do we have to provide that the working processes are efficiency, and how many rooms do we need exactly for those scenarios. So if you do your plannings, beside the quite regular space for working stations, more and more open space for sure. The areas for concentrated working, for recreation, for communication, collaboration, for interaction is getting more and more importance for the organizations, for the companies. And the success more and more depends on how good the headed processes are running in these organizations. And the better the design and the layout for this adjusted specific communicative aims or goals is, the better the success will be. So again, our central question was, how do we find the right solution? How many meeting rooms or meeting zones or meeting points are effectively needed? And how does the infrastructure of meeting areas or meeting rooms should be to proceed the processes? And which features must be fulfilled that communication, interaction, collaboration is working effective? These were questions we hadn't the right answer, but then we are challenging together with Stefan and his team the challenge is we have different kind of communication areas and communication scenarios which are more and more arising. It's not always the same. It's not always the static meeting room with 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 chairs and a smaller or bigger table. The mix of the several types of communication depends on individual basis of the organizations, very individual, as already we saw on the several companies. Stefan showed us the photos. So once again, how do we find the right solution? We had the chance to create this tool together with the Fraunhofer, and what the aim is that we gain transparency of meetings. We get transparency about the culture of the meetings, we get transparency about the quantity of meetings, and also about the quality of meetings at our clients. So what are the benefits? We get analysis of the content and course of meetings on the first hand. And second point is we can investigate the requirements of infrastructure of meeting rooms and also all the meeting areas. It must not be necessarily a complete room. We get a transparency of quantity and quality of meetings, the identification of individual requirements, needs. Every client has very specific needs, and it is very helpful for the individual space planning based on the specific demands of our clients. So how does it function? The first phase, we need to collect data. And we tried this in the developing, Stefan, this tool together. This is a data sheet which should be located at every point where interaction or collaboration or communication is taking place at the client. This is not necessarily only the classical meeting room. That could also be the kitchen. That could also be management office where meetings are taking place. And it's on the first view, it seems to be very complicated, but it isn't. It lasts only 2 to 3 minutes, Stefan, to fill it out. And we need these data to get the results for the analysis, what happened. So normally it lasts, the time frame is about 2 to 3 weeks. It depends on how big the client is, how many meetings they have in their organization. And then we collect them, and then we get the results. Let me explain you very shortly what you will get if you fulfill such an analysis. First, very global data. How long does a meeting last in average at the client? How many participants, overall meetings, do we have in average? And how many meetings did we analyze? So why do we these data? If you multiply a bit more than 1 hour, nearly six participants, 313 meetings, and multiply then with the labor costs per hour, you get an equivalent. How big were the costs about the 2 or 3 weeks we did this analyze, compared maybe to restructure, furnishment, or other values afterwards. So very global, but a nice thing to get a comparison between what the client afterwards really get. Then, and this is the research work, we can define 10 several types of communication. We have lecture, that's what we do at the moment. So one person speaks and the other one has to listen, which is much more anstrengend. It's easier to speak than to listen. Listen is much more difficult. So this is lecture. Then we have, for instance, information meetings, decision meetings, coordination meetings, project meetings, dialogue meetings, and so on. So it's 10 several types. And we get afterwards the transparency, which type, in terms of quality, do we have in this, at this specific client, and how many project meetings and how many workshops he had in the past. So this is the first time you can also use the floor plan and start to work with the clients, and we get also information about how many participants are in average in a lecture and how many participants in average take part in our negotiation situation. So very interesting data for the next step. This was the quantity. We get also results in the dimension of quality. Once again, our 10 types of communications. And then we have several dimensions. First dimension is the organization. The second one, the methods. The third one is technology. The fourth one, the infrastructure. And then we have the time. So we put a kind of traffic light behind this, and then you can see horizontal or vertical. This is negotiation, and we got good results for the organization of such kind of meetings. We got not bad, but we have some things for optimization there, for the methods, but bad results for technology and infrastructure. This is an indication that the meeting rooms are not the right rooms for such kind of meetings, and then you can start to discuss or find a better solution, for instance. Or you can also vertically show, okay, where are the biggest or the most worst results, and where's the biggest lever to start a restructure. And this is a compression of these informations. Sorry. Every bubble stands for one kind of communication: working meetings, dialogue meetings, and this axis means that nearly 23 or about 23% of all the meetings are working meetings, and about 20% are dialogue meetings. Together, we have nearly 50% of the meetings are those two kinds of meetings, which means on the other hand, the more the bubble is in this green field, the better the results were. If it's right here in this red section or area, the results were not so good, which means, okay, to restructure those types and those places where such kind of meetings took place in the past is the biggest lever for the company to get more efficient or more efficiency in this meeting culture. So next thing is we try to find out why the whole week, Monday to Friday, sometimes Saturday or Sunday is also possible, more in Russia than in Germany, I learned today. And then how many meetings do we have on Mondays, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and so on, and how many of them took place parallel together. So this is a clear indication how many meeting rooms or places I really have to plan for the client. And then we compressed this again in most characteristical room situations, and we named them. So for dialogue meetings, we have a special room module. We described it, which functions we really need, and then you can see also via the whole week how many meetings we have parallel with dialogue meetings, or for the room module coordinate, which are coordinating meetings or work meetings from Monday to Friday, how many of them were parallel. So a very good information for planning the right scenarios and the right designs for offices or for meeting rooms or meeting places afterwards. So these are very shortly the results. And afterwards, we started developing products. For instance, those kinetic products which are new for Interstuhl. We are developing exactly on the needs for those coordinate meetings, which are normally ad hoc meetings, short meetings, very narrow in terms of times for raising up a problem. I need now this very short meeting. I don't need a big meeting room with 20 seats. I only need a small table or stand-up table, and I only need 5 to 10 minutes to sort out the problem. Therefore, we developed exactly those kind of furniture. Maybe at the end we put this together in a short movie to help you in your communication with your clients. Very shortly, what's going on.
I'm going to explain why the success of a modern company is so dependent on its communication and what influence the correct infrastructure can have on this. This is where Colin Mayer and James Miller work. Colin manages a large software company. James is the chairman of a bank. Both want to create new spaces for staff meetings and discussions with customers and suppliers. Well, that's not difficult, they think. After all, they already have meeting rooms. You just need to provide the biggest possible table and lots of chairs, and there you are. The space is ready. But just a minute, Colin. Just a minute, James. Does that really reflect the way in which people in your company communicate with each other? In Colin's software business, information events are often organized, which are attended by all departmental managers. There are creative workshops with up to 8 people. Or sometimes a couple of software developers need to get together to exchange ideas. In James's bank, there are regular training sessions for all the staff. Besides, important customers are invited to attend individual consultations, and suppliers invited in for negotiations. And whenever a new product is to be developed, there are workshops which technical experts can link to via video stream. People communicate in such a huge variety of ways. But somehow the old meeting rooms of yesteryear are never suitable for the efficient way we communicate today. Colin and James can see that work within their companies has changed. The quality of the work depends to a significant effect on communication. How is information transmitted? And how is this information dealt with? Did everyone receive everything they needed? Do the members of staff have the motivation to take part in a process? Are there enough opportunities for people to liaise with each other and therefore make decisive progress? Communication determines the space. So how should Colin and James arrange their space? Interstuhl has analyzed a range of different communication situations on the basis of the research findings of the Fraunhofer Institute's IAO and developed the meeting analysis planning system with 5 modules for successful communication within companies. On the basis of these well-grounded research findings, Interstuhl is able to offer its customers targeted communication, specific analysis, and advice. And now we would like to help Colin and James to create the kinds of communication that will be fit for purpose in the work of the future. And in the process, make a significant contribution to the development of their businesses. We are shaping the future of seating because we have a passion for chairs.
So the best thing is always to have a good marketing department that makes it easier. Thank you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate now or later. Stefan or me, we are here this evening.
Есть вопросы? Поднимайте, пожалуйста, руку, я буду микрофон. Давайте поблагодарим наших спикеров, Нину Салкову.